He gets vertigo in that pew. Did y'all feel that?
Yeah.
Badly. So he says, I can't sit in the... Vince? Oh. Hopefully not, because I told him back. The verses around that. On your hand, there's some other verses. Comfort another. Remember a few weeks ago, diagram of when, and I was admonished on the way out for hatching out. That I friend who spoke, jumping out of the, it's like, so we put a screen over it and good admonishment, timely. I'll be glad. Would be bearing no. At the chapter. One is you who are spiritual, restore in a spirit of each one so that you tempted. There's burdens. Fill the law. Anyone thinks he's something, he deceives himself. His own work, and then he'll have reason boasting in regard to himself alone. Another one will Paul one another's burden. That little section says each one will similar twist his own load specific to the times we burdens that are bigger than we can bear on our own. Jesus said, come to me, give you rest. Take and learn, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Can be all different kinds. At different life, we get hit with different. In the context here, this context is in someone who's caught up in a trespass. If anyone, even if anyone has trespass, words, clapping and changeable in Scripture. Some folks will say, well, you know, there's different gradations, but they're sin. Caught in one, trapped, spiritual, restore such a spirit of gentleness. They can be physical, they can be emotional, they can be spiritual, it can be an addiction or a besetting sin. The church as sheep with the reference. One of the, I've been told against that particular. Sheep do bite. Sometimes the church falls behavior with those that fall into sin. They're trapped. They're in a trespass. And the reaction sometimes, too often, the church is, we never say it overtly, but this, look at the difference. If any, all that bear. I had a situation, guy who has the vertigo and is going to, and at living help out back. First guy worked. Rick, we had a bunch wood. And Matt and Joy, who live on the same property with us, with wood. We don't want some wood is yes. And I thought, what could be wrong with, so excavator that could probably, well, this would be, he moved my garage, tore the garage down, it would, trailer and excavator. This load of wood, it's a steel chainsaw. It's an old man's chainsaw. You know, it has this, and then it goes, and start. You don't even have to do this. It's like, but this long. This, why bigger? So this, like some of the rounds are, in fact, there's a couple of root, so he does youth event chainsaw thinking, nah, this, even if I cuts trees, we have the spectrum in our family covered. Get a call from Kathy. Greg, okay, the go through everything and starts off, and he says, so I'm walking it up. My burden. I didn't ask him, showed up. Well, I made it at some point. And he let out a key. So I pulled and used the tractor, the log splitter, and then used a crowbar, and I'm jacked. He sees me and comes running over. Splitting wood, not my plan. I was proud of 2 rounds split. My buddy Jonas calls me up, another wonderful Christian brother. He comes over and he's you guys, they did. Greg, Jonas, son Lucas, brought Owen, who's 2 seniors in high school. And I appreciate it. Dave, show up. Oh, Mike, son-in-law, but and Mike's the $6 million. Mike has never had, but he's a dollar man, and he always. My excuse, 6 months older than he. So, but it's been put hard and put away wet. So they're out there, and their wife, every of them said, your job is to sit on the tractor and move it. Split it, or woodshed. We have wood split now, probably years. Of course, there are that haven't been up into rounds. We probably tell Jesus. Story, but bearing, we have birds full of wood, and I'm of pulling that off. I admit that when I try rounds and my grand can do it. It's like, we need to recognize us at some point have burdens. It of a loved one. may be a catastrophe. You all have reached and helped bear that burden. It may be, like I said, an addiction, a physical issue. It may be that destructive. The setting of a broken bone, or putting something back and it's restored. Will you please pray for me after the service, because I have physical therapy 2 months. Doing both at the same time. He looked at me kind of like, what's the matter? The same physical therapist, and she was wonderful. She did a great job. It was no fun telling me to do something that hurt, which was the first 5 minutes of each. Getting set free from an addiction or getting addiction, that is a personal experience. Getting process is in the midst of the incredibly good. Can hurt. And he says, walk with the person, cajole, taking that person to seek God's forgiveness. Reasons for that: one, we don't want to confess sin. To that piece of that confronts. We think, oh, no, he doesn't here. He says, brethren. He's speaking to the whole church. Sometimes it is the pastor's job, but it's not the pastor's job. It's the church's job. We need people who are able to. So we don't want to confront. And second reason, I think, we don't want to go through restoration. Therapy's too painful. I know folks who are addicted, and some of them will start this and say, nope, this hurts worse than the problem. Leave me alone. That in so many, that's their behavior, and then they keep out. They need to live with the sin because it's less painful than the process of getting free. Now, it breaks my heart when I'm talking with people like that, or I'm watching people like that, because from personal experience of thousands and thousands of others, that the end result is one freedom in Christ. That Jesus has, he's called us free. And people choose to back away and say, nope, the process hurts too bad. We don't emails, and I'm not sure how it's mailing list, but it's a church leaders list. Have 3 or 4 good articles. We'll also have, and it's always church, it seems like almost always church into sin. Or a pastor has committed suicide, or this church went bananas, we don't handle that well as the worldwide church, the church, the church in America, whatever the stripe. Nobody as I just believe we can step up, we can do better as a church. And I've seen, I was pastoring, which is, there are 2 churches in Klamath, or there were at the time, Catholic Church. There was a Baptist church, the Baptist pastor and I was pastor in the church, and the Baptist pastor said, "You and I need to go out and knock on doors together." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "When I go out and knock on doors, the Methodist church, and I'm sure when you knock on doors, they say to go to the Baptist church." And I'm positive he was right, at least. But we never pulled that off. We did do some things together. But the closest town in size, and they had a number of churches. They had Calvary Chapel and Baptists and Lutherans and Presbyterians and Methodists. And I was in for 6 years as pastor. And during that time, there were 4 pastors who left the ministry because of moral failure. All across the nation, didn't matter. There were he'd go rob the. Some of us here who rarely comes to church knew it. Christians are hypocrites, and the pastors are the worst. And you find hypocrites everywhere. Hypocritical doctors, hypocritical lawyers, hypocritical nurses, hypocritical. Every profession has. I don't want to go because it's full of hypocrites. Well, come on, one more. Anyhow, that was my excuse, so I know all the answers to it. Anyhow, the guy was a thief. Another one was embezzling money, a relationship that he shouldn't have had. Carry on and on and on. And I watched time after the churches missed out. Read this first, church. If anyone's caught in trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of together. There's a process, but it's. I want of this kind of a church. I want to be part of a church that prays others on a regular basis. There's a myth. And it's the myth of self-sufficiency. I was looking for a good illustration of self-sufficiency. This is the best I could come up with. This guy has some to his feet that electricity that charges on his waist, that I'm a cell phone and everything. I have no idea. I'm a rain collection device on his. He's got a garden on his head. I am entirely. There's a few. Out very seriously the tank behind the metal. But it's a myth. I can be self-sufficient. There's this cultural group that I can think of who were manifest efficiency. You may think of, come to mind for me, the mountain. They were rugged individuals. They were self-sufficient. Weren't for a little while, maybe till they ran out of lead for their bullets. I doubt very seriously find their lead. Saltpeter out of a cave, which is one of the sources, and found coal, their black powder. I doubt guns. None of it. There's maybe a lot of you know that, remember Simon Garfunkel. Sufficient. We need one another. I was talking with my nephew yesterday, and he has facing some issues, and he's not been part of it. It was basically Uncle Rick. I thought, pitched me one low and said, very much, DJ. And he explained why Sunday mornings besides he didn't like to go because when he was gossiping. I said, DJ, can you find a that means none of them real that since groups of who are truly, and I stole part of my sermon, I'm bearing one another's help children that would be in need. We need both. We need the willingness to acknowledge that's us too. That's how to live. And then is to admit our need. Call pastor people to help me cut that load of wood. Jonas took it on himself to say, Rick, we need that load of wood. He also, God bless his soul and heart, he also said, Rick, we also need to look to this passage, lest we be tempted. The nature of walking with restoration times. We to what I see this in the area that I deal with God with. That you have to be careful lest you fall into it. I had a lot of friends, Alcoholics Anonymous, and they have to be careful when they're ministering to another. All back into and this has to bear these things, to bear others' burdens. Choose a life together, life together, one life. And in this, America, the pinnacle of rugged individualism. And we got that our history, and we got removed ourselves from under England's rule. That it doesn't work. It has to be because we're called together. God calls us to cast our burdens on Christ. Effectively are the body. Down us by the Corinthians. This was not to his private prayer on the Lord. Now that's but God's came to Paul, Titus. Bear one another, love one another, loved us. Came through the which he brought, in which we bear part of the purpose, so burdens to our, but rather Christian friend who will help with us. There's a throughout these that we've been looking at these last sexuality, not fulfill the without being in community with one another. I pray of you that you unity with you can be with. I have a group of guys. There's in Southern California. Another one's in Idaho. Here, one's in Philomath. Absolutely, I know none of that stuff. I said, I didn't go into the whole thing. One, I wouldn't. Tired. not doing the whole pastor gig. I'm just getting the upfront guy. A, if you're younger, you do this, believe church. So A, I wouldn't, but B, because the Most High princes and princes, somebody who can take you to the next level. Next. I wish I was. Coming, hopefully, fairly soon. What's going on? It's a church, and is in to develop a new pastor. Those relationships where this that we've been looking at is life. This is not normal Christian. This is how you're. This is churches hanging out together and listen to hope on Sunday morning. Churches. I want to close this. Y'all. The hand looks like this. Romans 6:20. Write this on a now. How many verses? 100? Young guys, when you only have one shot, is on the other side. The bridge is Jesus Christ. Particularly that over the top. You can walk. The instructions on how to here. If you don't have, you can use this passage and then comfortable. Share it with your kids. Share it. There's a tremendous amount. Jesus Christ, brother. Hey, there you go. This commitment. It will cost more. Father, what a do not already have a group of people that they never let us go. I pray you would begin to build those relationships.